Michael Chandler is a plus 130 underdog versus Paddy Pimblett, who is the minus 160 chalk. Let's break down the co-main from UFC 314. I'm Ethan Diamandis. He is Jon Anik on the huddle. I got a story about Paddy Pimblett for you, John.
Let's hear it.
My buddy calls me on vacation in Mexico, and he goes, there's some British UFC fighter at my resort. He's got kind of weird hair, and then we, deduce that it is Paddy Pimblett at the resort. And apparently a very, very nice guy. Was slugging a few beers, but also hitting the treadmill and the elliptical pretty hard. My friend asked him who he was fighting. This was back in, maybe December, January, and true to his word, Paddy Pimblett said, I will be fighting Michael Chandler. So, I sat on that information, didn't really break the scoop, but,
wow.
I had to be more of a reserve journalist. So
yeah,
we'll see if I get a second chance. On that note, though, John, Paddy Pimblett, of course, famous for relaxing himself in between fights and getting into shape. I mean, when he walks into the fighter meetings and then when you see him in the octagon, like, are you just amazed at his physical transformation?
Not really. I think it's kind of an overblown storyline, if I'm being honest, right? Like, sometimes he'll say to us in a comedic way, like, yeah, I didn't go to America between fights, so I didn't get as fat this time because I don't know what you all inject in the food in America, but I didn't come there after my last fight, so I'm doing just fine. Paddy Pimblett is in fine fettle right now, to be sure, as we lead down to fight time. But I just think a lot has been made of that because he's unabashed and he's not afraid to, post pictures when it looks like his face has been injected with mayonnaise, So I think way too much has been made of that. He is an elite professional athlete. And I think we have always sort of thought that when the fights got bigger and the showcases got bigger and the opponents got better, that, that sort of Paddy Pimblett would be a thing of the past. And it looks like there's a championship commitment in totality right now. So I'm excited to see what he can do. And, the betting line is but one lens through which to look at these fights, right? But the fact that he is favored against perennial contender Michael Chandler, say what you will about his UFC results, is very telling to me. And I think for those of us that have long believed in Paddy Pimblett, not just because of the persona and the star power, but because of the skills and the grappling ability and willingness to go with the striking and the long-range weapons and the athleticism and everything else, the size for the weight class, it's nice to see him get this shine. And I have said if he can beat Michael Chandler and get to the fight, the title eliminator against a number one contender, right? So Paddy Pimblett, right, 10 days from now, Ethan, could have a win over Michael Chandler, right? Would make him top 5 or whatever it is, top 7. So then if Paddy Pimblett gets matched up with Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, or Justin Gaethje, right, and wins that fight, and I'm just saying he's favored to win this weekend, right? And then that would be the next fight against one of those guys. Paddy's not trying to skip the line, go fight Islam right away, wants to fight the number one contender. Just imagine, right? If Paddy Pimblett beats one of those 3 guys, those 3 world-class guys, he's going to be on top of the goddamn world because Paddy Pimblett's going to be fighting for the UFC's undisputed lightweight championship. And even if he doesn't win it, it doesn't matter. Like, Paddy Pimblett has so many amazing qualities as fighter, as human being, as father, as master orator, not unlike Conor McGregor. None of the material's written. He can just spew and just absolutely crush you with his words, make you laugh with his words. I just sat down with him. I mean, he's absolute gold on a microphone. So if he can get to a title fight, he's going to be one of the biggest superstars in mixed martial arts history. Now, some of our viewers might say, hey, he's got to beat Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira first, but it's why they play the games, baby.
I love it. I love the way you've contextualized it because he could really just take a stab at any of those guys. Chandler's one notch on the belt, right? But then you get to the real cream of the crop in the Charles Oliveira's, the Justin Gaethje's, the Arman Tsarukyan's, against whom I might add, I believe Paddy is actually a pretty solid matchup. He's in a good spot stylistically there. Now, we've waxed poetic on Paddy for a minute now, but I want to sort of contemplate where Michael Chandler fits into this and where he's at in his crossroads, because in sports betting, especially MMA betting, I've been told, about an adage that you never want to bet on a fighter who isn't interested in the outcome you're betting. And this was in a reference to Kevin Holland, whom this better contested is often more interested in entertaining the crowd than actually getting his hand raised. I have some concerns with Chandler on this. I don't doubt his competitiveness and his will or his ambition to truly become, a champion at 38, 39. But I just noticed a little bit less aggression from a stylistic perspective in his last fight against Charles Oliveira. I mean, he knew he was down on the scorecards and he was throwing the slams for the crowd and getting people hyped up. But I don't know if maybe I'm misreading it, John. So call me out if I am. But have you seen Chandler's style or his attitude evolve over the last couple of years?
No, not really. I think you got to be careful changing your stripes, right? Like even Drew Dober, one of the more decorated knockout artists in the UFC's lightweight division, was sort of preaching patience and evolution going into his last fight. And not to suggest that that's why he got knocked out by Manuel Torres, but Drew Dober became that type of knockout artist because he was willing to bite down on the gum shield and maybe take one to give one. So yeah, Michael Chandler entertains, but let us be clear, Ethan, he's trying to win this fight at all costs, right? And when we set up all of this potential trajectory for Paddy Pimblett, none of it really can happen and avoid a 2-year type setback in terms of that trajectory if he doesn't beat Michael Chandler, which is a huge ask, right? Go ask Charles Oliveira what he thinks of Michael Chandler and how competitive Michael Chandler was in the last fight between those two guys. Yeah, it was a dominant win for Charles Oliveira, but the fact that Michael Chandler, after absorbing that type of punishment, just keeps on coming. He's as conditioned as any fighter on the roster. He's as committed as any fighter on the roster. And, it's hard to be both elite and entertaining. And Michael Chandler has accomplished that for a long time. How many guys can you say are wildly exciting and also top 5, right? Yeah, it's hard to compare in the lightweight division, I guess, but across all divisions, there aren't that many guys that are top 3, 4 in the world that are, pound for pound, the most exciting guys in the sport. So I think it's going to be tough for Paddy Pimblett, and I think he would subscribe to that theory as well.